Good evening. All right, we're going to get started in just a minute. We'll let everyone log in. So, hey, Tina. Good to see you. All right, very exciting. We're in the final session of our master class. So, we've been putting it together for 9 classes already. So, we're going to tie it all together with today's class. So, very exciting. And we're going to be, of course, as always, concentrating, talking about the hormones, but now we're going to get into the specifics. So we're into the lab test that has to do with hormones. And we're going to be talking specifically about the roles of estrogen and progesterone and everybody else that follows along. So very exciting class and really a great culmination of everything we've done to date. So we'll just give everybody else a minute to join here and then we'll get started. Okay, good. See here. Good. Some people were having trouble logging in, so we're just going to give them a minute to get in. And let's just check it out. Let me just make sure. Good. Good. All right, excellent. Okay, good. So as always, if there's anything you want to ask or say, you can do that throughout the class. I'll do the best I can. I answer. If not, we'll definitely do the question and answer at the very end. If there's anything you want to make sure I cover or discuss specifically in regards to what you have going on, please let me know and we can do that as well. But otherwise, we're going to go into the materials here. And as always, I'm going to share the screen, kind of set the stage of what we're going to be looking at, what we want to discuss, and take it from there. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right. So as always, trying to get my screen to share is always quite a challenge. So the first thing we want to do is just backtrack just for a minute here. And we're going to go back and talk about some specific things that we had covered in some other classes. And let's go there. Good. So just I'm going to share the screen here. So we have covered in great detail what this really means. So this is a very unassuming picture, but we're going to break it down one last time tonight in detail. So throughout a woman's life, you are literally at least 9 different people. And it's one of the key reasons why you're having trouble figuring yourself out. As soon as you do figure yourself out, it doesn't work, it stops working, it changes, is because you can see and represented in the purple, these are your different hormone levels from age 10 through age 90. So you have at least 9 evolutions of who you are. And for each evolution, your body has different needs. Sometimes it needs lots of protein. Sometimes it needs no protein. Sometimes it wants this kind of exercise. Sometimes it doesn't want exercise. Sometimes exercise makes you gain weight. It all depends on what phase of all of these hormonal patterns that you're in. So what we really need to know, even if you don't know what to do, if you're struggling or having trouble with something, what you know is you're at least just applying the incorrect decade to the incorrect request of your body. So you might not know what to do, but you know what you're doing is addressing it for its wrong age bracket. So that's kind of the overview. And now we're going to start getting into the specifics. Okay. All right, good. So let me go get another picture that now we're going to get into a little bit more detail. The next one we have here is the list of hormones by definition. And when we're talking hormones, the mistake is thinking that it's just estrogen and progesterone. And what we're going to be looking at here, you don't have to memorize. It's kind of small for your screen, but there are approximately 67, quote, different hormones that you have to balance in conjunction with estrogen and progesterone to really make your hormonal system work. And that is because there's other organs and systems that are involved in the estrogen and progesterone. It's not just an ovary and uterus thing. That's the very limited medical thing that you just target, isolate, or shoot the messenger, so to speak. What you need to look at is that your body on the inside is just like an orchestra. And you have all of the different pieces of the orchestra playing the same music, but in complete harmony. And what we're working on is this hormone harmony, this complete balancing act that needs to occur between all the different organs and systems. And a picture that represents that, so you can see what it looks like, what your body's doing every second of every day, is in keeping with kind of the viewpoint and the philosophy that we adopt here and we use with our patients. So you know, that way you never feel overwhelmed, is that literally anything can cause anything. So now that you know you have all these different hormones from all these different organs, you also have these working relationships, both directly and indirectly, positively, negatively, between all of these organs and systems. So this is quite a balancing act. And you can see, if you looked at this like an orchestra or a symphony, all the different pieces playing all kinds of music simultaneously, but some coming in late on purpose, some coming in early, some playing fast, playing slow, and your organs and systems are doing this every second of every day. So it gives you a good appreciation of what's really going on in there, the complexity also of what makes you you. And then if you're feeling a little beat up or that you can't seem to fix yourself the way you hope and expected, part of that is just based on lack of training. So who told you you had to be a mini medical doctor as part of everything? So it takes anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry to really understand all of these processes and pathways. So this is what we have going on, and explain some of the mess you're running into and why some of it's a little frustrating, difficult, not going as you hoped or expected, or is a surprise. So all of this is to kind of be expected. So now let's start going into the specifics here, and we're going to be talking about hormones. The one for the subject matter now are the estrogen and progesterone. They're the ones that most women are the most concerned about, and we'll focus a lot on those, but we definitely have to spend a lot of time on their counterparts or their neighbors, because they're actually either one, just as important, or two, might even be more important. So let's go take a look at some of that now. And what we're going to give you is a complete picture of what estrogen and progesterone actually looks like. So these are all the different hormone pathways. The mistake is thinking that estrogen is just one thing. Estrogen actually, quote, doesn't exist. Estrogen is a group of hormones. There's three key estrogens, and they're called estrone, estradiol, and estriol. And they're, for the short term, in the bottom right-hand corner in the purple, they're called E1, E2, E3. And not only importantly, do you need to know that there's three different estrogen hormones, you also need to see all of those funky words with all the dashes and the letters and the numbers, that each of these hormones have substrates of themselves, or smaller molecules, that if they're not properly put together to make the hormone molecule, you'll have a hormone imbalance. And or if this hormone is not broken down correctly, you will also have a hormone imbalance. So you're looking at not only a problem on the front end, possibly creating these hormones correctly, you could also be looking at a detox, a breaking down, or splitting up of these hormones. And as you can see, the estrogens only represent a very small portion of this chart. That the purple, that bluish purple color, is the only thing that is the estrogen. In order for this whole box to work beautifully and correctly, everything before it in green, pink, orange, and white has to also be working just as well simultaneously. So when people say I have a hormone imbalance, I don't think they really realize what they're saying, because when you say you have a hormone imbalance, that's what I'm thinking. Probably what you're thinking is purple, or part of the purple at best, which is a very limited viewpoint. It also explains why, as I've said many times, you can't really listen to social media influencers or people online, is because they're very limited in their solution, what they're offering, what their biochemical knowledge is, what part of this hormonal system are they actually talking about. So we have these estrogens here, and you know, they're definitely a good part of it, but they're only a part of the story. So we're going to work this backwards. So one, estrogen's very important, but what's more important than estrogen, that what needs to occur prior to that, is everything in green. And what you see there also in this particular section is testosterone. So interestingly enough, testosterone is a very important hormone, even in women. So we tend to think of testosterone only being a situation with men, but in women, it's very important. And then some of the other words that you can't see clearly are the beginnings of certain adrenal gland hormones. So in order for your estrogens to work properly and stay balanced, you also need your DHEA, which is a key adrenal hormone, being produced in correct quantities and being utilized and broken down and balanced against the estrone, the estradiol, and the estriol. So the three key estrogen hormones. And what can happen here is any one of these channels or highways or pathways can become blocked. And then, as you know, just like on a traffic jam, it just backlogs everything prior to it and or stops traffic for everything after it. So if you have a problem with one of the hormones in the green box, that'll back up and jam up everything in the pink and orange, and it'll create a deficit of all of the purple, which is your estrogens. So the medical thing is if the estrogens are low, then what do? We force it up by giving hormone replacement. And the actual question actually should be is what is the root cause of the purple box becoming deficient? Is it a problem in the green box? Is it a problem in the red or the pink box? Is it a problem in the orange box? Or is it a problem even before any of that over in the upper left-hand corner in the white area? And we'll talk about that in just a second. So the key to estrogen balances is to have adrenal glands balanced. And then the key to having your adrenal glands and the adrenal gland hormones balanced is now what's represented in the pink. And what happens here is very important is progesterone is here and cortisol is here. So progesterone is one of the key balancers to the estrogen. It's one we know as far as the different phases of the women's menstrual cycle, that certain times and weeks of the month, as you know, progesterone is supposed to be high or low, and then estrogen is supposed to kind of be balanced out, high or low in relation to the progesterone. That's what most women know. The problem is that what we're running into in today's society is that down in the bottom of the pink there, if you can see it, there's a big circle and it's called cortisol. And cortisol is the stress hormone. So if you are excreting too much cortisol, that starves out and it's called the steal. It's getting stolen from the other hormones so that you will run into a deficiency. And again, everything above it or to the left of it or to the right of it. So the more stressed out you are, the more cortisol you produce, the more you shut down this entire chart. So stress is one of the key things that we need to take a look at. And guess what organ stress mainly causes disruption of is the true source or root cause of the problem? Adrenal glands. So again, going back that we have been misled that it's all about estrogen and progesterone, which it is to a large degree, but very importantly, looking at the counterparts of the things that come before it. So we're looking at cortisol there. Then one of the key things that happens is that you go up to the top of the pink, and though you can't see it, there's a word, it's called pregnenolone. And over up to the left, you see the word pregnenolone, and then above that, you see cholesterol. So pregnenolone is what hormones are made from. So what you have here on the chart is that if you want to make hormones, what you need is a substance called pregnenolone. And pregnenolone kind of opens up and, you know, your body changes it into whatever it needs to on this chart. Cortisol, progesterone, DHEA, one of the three estrogens, some testosterone, but it all comes from a substance known as pregnenolone. So if you are using too much of this pregnenolone to be broken open and utilized and it's being turned into cortisol, there isn't enough pregnenolone left over to go finish and create and support the rest of the chart. So you have what's known as the pregnenolone steal, and the guy who's stealing it primarily is cortisol. So what's very important is to handle the stress in your life. Now, the problem with this is by definition, the word stress here. And we're not just talking about, oh, you know, I have a rough life. It has to be much more specific than that, because your cortisol just doesn't get excreted because you have a rough life. You have to go now and get into the details of what, by definition, in your life is making it, quote, rough. So we have to take a look at all of the things you might be doing and or not doing. So, of course, the obvious ones are diet. So are you eating enough foods that negate cortisol And or are you avoiding those foods that help you create cortisol? And as we've talked in the other classes, the number one enemy or food group to cortisol. So if you want too much cortisol, you want to be stressed, you want to feel miserable, the food group that's going to create the most amount of upset is carbohydrates. So when you are stressed, when you have high cortisol, when you have a rough life, the worst thing you can do is eat carbohydrates because it's the number one enemy to that hormonal chart as we just looked at. The problem is, as you know, when you get stressed, what's the first thing you reach for? Carbohydrates, bread, sugar, cookies, candy, ice cream. It's the worst possible you can do thing you can do for your machine. So what we have to do, as we've talked about in other classes, is starting to take out the emotional component to eating and treating your body to some degree, just like it's your car. So if your car was having trouble and it was stressed out, or you heard a clunk or a noise, you wouldn't go put Coca-Cola in the gas tank. You would go have it taken in for service, and the correct liquids and liquid levels and fuel sources and perfect remedies would be put into the body, put into the machine, put into the car. So we need to start taking a look at addressing our little noises and quirks and clanks and clunks in our body more like we would our car. That one, you investigate to find out where the noise is coming from, and you find the correct fuel source or food source or dietary source to correct or fix that. So when your cortisol is too high, what you're doing is you're stealing all that pregnenolone, and pregnenolone is made from cholesterol. So if you are stressed out, what you should be doing is eating foods, natural foods, that have higher levels of cholesterol. So the whole thing about cholesterol, as we talked about in class 1 when we were still reading the book, is all of this information about cholesterol is bad for you is not true. It's the number one source of hormone production. So eating ample amounts of cholesterol, good fats is where cholesterol comes from. So when you're stressed, you probably should be eating more good fats, avoiding carbohydrates, and getting those cholesterol molecules to not be making cortisol, but be making the other hormones you so desperately need. So you look at the true sources of stress. So diet is definitely one. The next thing that's really throwing off, going back to the estrogen and progesterone, now that you see that all of these things are interrelated, is doing the incorrect exercise routine. So as you get older, you should gradiently switch from high impact, high cardiovascular over to, quote, low impact. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a really intense, painful, torturesome routine, just low cardiovascular significance. So as you get older, you definitely want to work out and continue your exercise routine, but you want to convert over from what's known as a high intensity interval training exercise routine, or anything high intensity, HIIT for short, and start moving over to what's called a low interval intense exercise routine or training. So it's called LIIT, L-I-I-T. So what you want to be doing is more weights, planking, intense Pilates, intense yoga. As you can see, they're all going to be intense, and you're going to feel it when you're done with a session, I promise you. But the secret is not getting your heart rate up about over 1 to 125. So what are you not doing? Just jacking up your cortisol. So if you did need carbohydrates, if you switched over to a low intensity exercise routine, you now have two areas of, quote, stress, maybe the ones you didn't think. I know you think it's your boss or your next door neighbor. We'll get to those people in just a second. But from things you might be doing quite by accident, decreasing the carbohydrates and changing your exercise routine to be a lower cardiovascular intensity routine. Two key ones to keep that cortisol in balance. So there's a lot more cholesterol and pregnenolone left over to go shunt to your estrogen and progesterone where you want it to be going in the first place. So that's the key. The next thing you have to take a look at as far as the stress is where else it might be coming from. So usually, and just kind of follow along here, when I ask people why they're stressed, the answer they give me is usually like an object or like a place. So they're like, oh, I'm so stressed out. Where? At work. Okay, work like isn't a thing. So work doesn't exist. There's a building that you go and you do something in every day. And then there's people in that building. And then you're in that building, and then there are the objects, but we need to find out of all of those things, which thing or things are actually giving you the stress. So, for example, when you tell me you have stress at work, we have to get, this is the devil's in the details. This is how we isolate it out. So, where is the stress coming from? So, one, when you go to the parking lot at work, is the parking lot giving you stress? Maybe it's a horrible parking lot and it is giving you stress. But let's say, for argument's sake, for this example, it's not. So, no, you park your car, you have a spot, plenty of parking spaces, you park. That's not where your stress is coming from. You go into the building. Is there a problem with the building? Are ceiling tiles falling on your head? Is it dangerous? Are you climbing over big pieces of floor that are broken? No. Okay, good. So it's not the building. Let's go into then your department. So you have, wherever you work, you have a desk or a cubicle, you have an area or a space that's your space. So is there anything about your space that's non-optimum? Do you have a broken chair? Do you have a fuzzy computer screen? Do you have a broken pen? What, is there anything? Is that where the stress is? So, again, we're being ridiculous, but this is the point. Okay, good. So none of those things are the problem. Then you have a job to do, okay? So you have to crunch numbers, you have to create pictures, you do Photoshop, you consult, you do whatever. So is there, in your job, is there actually stress in your job, like what you do? So is crunching the numbers causing you stress? If it is, you're in the wrong profession. So it's not a real source of stress. That is a problem. But if you just don't like your job, that can be a sort of stress, but that's something personal that you have to do something about. So it will create your cortisol levels to go up because you are stressed because you do a job you hate every day. So let's make sure. But let's say you do number crunching, you're an accountant, whatever you are, and you actually went to school and you have a degree and you love your job. You like what you do for a living. So then we know the stress isn't coming from there. We're running out of options here in a good way. Good. There's very few things that are left. The only thing that's left now are the people that you work with. And actually, by default, and by 30 years of doing this stress management with my patients, the number one source of stress is actually a person. It's a who. It's not a what. It's a who. It's not your computer. It's not the building. It's not work. It's not the number crunching. It's not the mouse or your laptop. It's a person, and it's usually just one or two people, by the way. So now that we've narrowed this down, let's take a look at the people and see who in your life is possibly causing you the stress. Because there is a very, very good chance that your hormonal imbalance is coming from someone at work and not from being deficient in estrogen or needing to be on hormone replacement or blaming it on perimenopause or menopause or anything. It could be just simply come down to the stress that's coming from a person, and this person is usually kind of cranky and kind of rude and doesn't treat you very nicely. So usually the sources of stress are a who. So this is something we can talk about more if you're a patient of mine. There's a whole special class and things we talk about it, not for today, but just so you're really getting at, if you're going to blame a lot of your hormonal imbalances, whether that's estrogen or progesterone, really taking a look at where it's coming from, it's usually going to boil down to a who. Now, you have to do the same thing for your home and every other area of your life. So if you live in a beautiful home and the ceiling's not falling down, there could be a person or who affiliated or associated with your home, but start looking at the who or the people in your environment. Okay, good. I think that's enough about stress. So let's go back now. We're going to talk about the hormones some more, and let's see how. Now we're going to back up and talk about the two key ones, the diet and the exercise. So let's go get you another picture here so you can see. So in your hormones, it's definitely a balancing act. And what you have here is a picture that represents that. I hope. Doesn't look like it opened. Hold on. I love when it doesn't work. Okay, good. Try that again. Okay, good. Excellent. And what we're looking at here is, again, talking about the diet. So it's kind of, you see, it's kind of like, a balancing act here. So it's a seesaw, or the scale is out of balance. What this represents here is that you have too much on one side and not enough on the other side. And how this usually occurs is that why the carbohydrates are a problem. If you see over to the right, it says abnormal high insulin levels. So what it does is it starts unbalancing your hormones. And this insulin is created in response to carbohydrate consumption. So when everyone says, oh, doc, you're just like everybody else, and this is all about a fad diet or a keto diet or whatever, that's not at all true of any of that. It's actually due to the reaction in your body. And I do apologize on the way your body was designed, that insulin and carbohydrates are the ones that are enemy number one. So if protein caused high insulin, I'd be telling you to be on a low protein diet. If eating calcium containing foods increased your insulin, I'd be telling you to restrict your calcium. But the thing that actually increases your insulin levels is carbohydrates. So this is an actual biochemical mix up here. So the less carbohydrates you eat, the less insulin you secrete, and the less insulin you secrete, the more this seesaw or this balancing or this weighted scale stays equal. So it's when you have too much insulin, it starts making your sex hormones less, and then all of your poor organs have an equal and opposite reaction, that if estrogen and progesterone go down, then thyroid and other hormones have to go up, because remember, we have to always keep you in balance. We have to always keep you in something known as homeostasis. So what we have to do here is take a look at your diet, keep the insulin down, keep the sex hormones up, keep the thyroid not down, but down enough to be balanced in conjunction with everything else. And I want to go back and show you that now that you get a better understanding here. Here's the balancing act that we're trying to create. Let me see here. Good. This is what we're going back to. This is why anything can cause anything. So all of these organs here are secreting hormones, and any one of them can start getting imbalanced due to, quote, stress or eating too many carbohydrates or doing the wrong exercise routine. And if you have any one of these organs stressed out, everyone else on the page has to balance themselves just a little bit. So if the adrenal glands are stressed out and your cortisol is high, adrenal glands over on the upper right part of the page, then everybody on the left side has to go down in order to keep the adrenal glands up. So high adrenals on the right means low sex organs, ovaries, uterus on the left. You can have something going on with other organs. You could have the small intestine not detoxing out your hormones directly or correctly. It could be an overwhelm of cortisol in the small intestine. So if the small intestine is an overwhelm, it's going to shut down the word you see below. It's going to shut down your pancreas. It's going to shut down your thyroid. It's going to go as far down on the chart as it needs till it gets things balanced. So anything that has something high, there's always something that has to have an equal opposite reaction and go low. So again, the medical mistake is thinking that something high you force down and something low you force up. The question becomes, if something is high, finding the root cause as to why it's high and fixing that, and then based on the domino effect, which thank goodness for all these working relationships here, if you fix the root cause, it balances out the whole sheet for you. So a huge portion of my clinical success is not because I'm actually all that good. It's because I'm good at knowing how to positively manipulate the body. So I was like, all right, I could go and handle each one of these organs. That would be a lot exhausting. Or I can find the key ones, the few key root causes, fix that, and then I'll let the body do the rest of the work. And it's kind of like, and that goes all the way down and fixes everything along the way. So in working with you, I'm actually counting on that occurring. So that is why there's very specific guidelines and instructions that we give you each phase, each month of the program, is because we're counting on each piece being the next piece of the puzzle till finally the mechanism is fully complete and it goes click, and then everything just falls into place. Now, when that's going to happen and how it's going to happen and why it's going to happen, that is where you as an individual, and why your genetics are so important, is I can predict to a large degree what's going to happen, but some of it just comes down to sheer observation. And when I see it, handling it and fixing it. So it's not a surprise per se, but it's just, hey, guess what? We didn't tell you about this. It's like, awesome. So now we got to go handle that. So that happens at least once in every patient. So that is why it's so important to be in the correct mindset as a patient and know that this is a journey. And it's going to take about a year, and a lot of times longer than a year. But if you could just at least hang in there for a year, we should get a decent amount of things fixed. Usually year 2 is about getting into the genetic components. So year 1 is about just kind of putting out all the fires, getting the organs and systems balanced, getting those hormones in balance, addressing whatever's going on, estrogen and progesterone. And then year 2 is about going down and handling whatever's happened the several decades prior to being a patient. Okay, good. The next thing we're going to be taking a look at now is some lab panels. So I want you to see how we're going to know what all this wonderful information. So it's not just guesswork. So let me go get that. Here is a sample patient, and we're going to take a look at that. We're not going to name any names here. So give me 2 seconds here and then open that up. But here's someone where I've taken out the information. And let's go see where that is. Hold on 1 second. Give me try one more time. It just won't bring it up. So give me 1 second to see where, let me hit cancel here. All right. Please hold for technical difficulties. So there it is. Where am I? Where are you? Where are we? Let's try this again. So hopefully you can see. Okay, excellent. There it is. All right, beautiful. All right. So now that we know we have estrogen and progesterone as a key player, they definitely are very important. I'm not trying to play down the role of these hormones. I'm just trying to show you and get in perspective. On this particular report here, green is good, yellow is so-so, red is bad. So the best and interesting thing that I ever see is women come to me and during their initial consultation, and they're like, I absolutely know it's my estrogen. And I'm like, okay, it may or may not be. And then they're like, it's definitely low. I have all the symptoms of low estrogen. And then we do this report, as you see here, and you see those first 3 words, the estradiol, estrone, and estriol that we had talked about, the E1, E2, E3, and none of them are low. So even though this woman thought all of her hormone symptoms were being caused by low estrogen, that's not at all what's going on. Actually, look at her E3. It's off the chart. It's actually going the wrong direction. So this is the trouble and the danger of trying to diagnose yourself or using, what you found on a doctor Google search online or watching some hormone expert on any one of the social media channels. Is you really have to test. You really have to work with someone as an individual and get to the root causes and the true answers. The other thing is, to a large degree, this person, yellow is so-so, like I said, has too much testosterone and progesterone. So it's not only an estrogen problem, and that's why I showed you the picture. This particular woman has a problem with all 3. It's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So we have some work to do here. And usually when they're high, it needs to be detoxed out. We don't need to force it down with supplements or hormone replacement. What we need to do is get her liver, her small and large intestines, detoxing out these residues. So that's really what's going on here. It's an estrogen toxicity that would need and require better detox and filtration. Then on the next page here, the raw data from page 1, we're going to skip that. This page of the report explains everything I just said in grave detail, which we're going to skip. But it does explain why this person is having these symptoms. But what's very important here is a hormone we haven't even talked about. It was on the chart, but we didn't even get to it, and it's called melatonin. Melatonin is one of the key brain hormones that kind of keeps you chill and happy, and no one ever thinks of a melatonin imbalance as part of their hormone imbalance. And a lot of people are taking over-the-counter melatonin, and that's actually not a good thing because, again, what are you doing? You're forcing the wrong hormone to do something it's not supposed to be doing. And chronic over-the-counter melatonin abuse, basically, is what I call it, will eventually lead to estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone imbalances. Because remember the seesaw? So if I have too much of one, I got to go take away from someone else. So a lot of these women with this perimenopause, menopause clinical picture actually they gave themselves perimenopause basically by abusing melatonin in the years before. So you can actually be the real true root cause of your hormone imbalance. On this particular page, then, this woman is having a horrible time in the morning. Look at that. Green again is good. Yellow is so-so. Red is bad. And look at that morning score, that first little diamond. It's like, oh my gosh, I would not want to be this woman first thing in the morning. I'm assuming she wakes up in the middle of a panic attack with a score like that. So her brain is always like, from the second she wakes up. It's her melatonin that probably wakes her up. So we don't want that. So definitely we would need to handle as part of her estrogen progesterone picture, her melatonin. And then here are the other two hormones that I said are so key in hormone balancing. It's DHEA, which is an adrenal gland hormone, and cortisol. So the chart to the right there that you see with those 4 diamonds with the line, again, green is good, yellow so-so, red is bad. Little bit of a hormonal surge there in the morning. She's in the yellow, not too bad. And then in 3 to 5 in the afternoon, look at that, she's out of the color band again. I guarantee you this is at the time of the day. She's either eating sugar, this is where she's working out, and or this is the most stressful part of her day, whether that's family, friends, or coworkers. I would be asking this person what's happens between 3 and 5. And we need to, again, find the who. That's the source of the stress. So this is usually a who, could be a what. I mean, if it is your exercise routine. So I'm not blaming, not saying everyone in your life is horrible, but at least 33% of the time, this is going to be a who and not a what. So we find out what's happening there at 3 to 5 in the afternoon. So this is a great example. We're going to go get another one now and share another lab test with you. These are wonderful. I love to nerd out. These are so amazing as far as the clinical picture. So it takes out all of the guesswork. So anyone who's telling you it's definitely my melatonin, it's definitely not my estrogen, I'm like, okay, well, why don't we just do that lab test and let's find out what's really happening in there. So totally love that. So let's go share the screen here. So here's a second one. Nope, doesn't like it. Hold on. You bugger. Okay, good. So you stay there. One more time. Excellent. Good. So here's another one for you. All right, good. So here's a woman now with a different clinical picture. So if she thought she had a hormone problem, look at her scores. All of her hormone estrogens are beautiful green. So if this woman's trying to tell me that all of her problems of that she's like erratic at work and fighting with her family all the time and moody all the time and not sleeping, and she's trying to insist she's going into perimenopause, she's not. You can't have all scores perfectly green and then blame it on perimenopause or menopause. So she's moody, cranky, tired, whatever, for some other reason, but it is not estrogen and progesterone's fault. Not at all. She can't be this beautiful score-wise. So let's go see what is the problem. We're going to go back on the commentary. And here's part of the problem. So she's got really high melatonin again in the beginning of the day and the end of the day. In the middle of the night, it's just like waking her up. So in between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning, it's again off the chart. So if this woman's cranky, moody, and not getting along with her family, it's because she's not sleeping. This has nothing to do with perimenopause. This has to do with her brain's just like waking up in the middle of the night, torturing her, because that's way too high a melatonin between the 2:30 and 3:30 realm. So she's got a melatonin problem, not an estrogen problem. And then also throughout the day, this poor woman, look at these scores on her cortisol to the right. She's never normal. So she probably has an anxiety attack 24/7. She's just in there. Her heart's racing all the time. This is, again, stress. So we'd be looking at the diet, the amount of carbohydrates she's eating, the exercise routine she's doing, and the who's in her life. So who is doing this to her? So this is horrible. So this is really bad scores. She's upset all the time. And if she is, I'm guessing around 3 to 5 in the afternoon there, on top of being so stressed already, this is probably where, because she's been told that she needs to go run on the treadmill for an hour. So she's over here running on the treadmill, making a bad situation worse. So this poor woman just never calms down. She's miserable. So we can help her, but she's miserable. So these make a lot of sense. So good. Let's go get another one. These are great. I love these to really drive home what it is we're looking at. So let's go get another one here. Okay, good. And excellent. Good. So let me share this with you. Okay, good. Then what we have here, similar but not the same. So we definitely, now this woman definitely has low estrogen there, E2, E1. So this could be the beginning of perimenopause. My concern is, though, look at her testosterone and her progesterone. They are like literally off the chart. Progesterone is really scary. If you go to the ranges over to the right, high, bad, normal, or high, normal, and bad is 850. Her score is 3,453. So this is not perimenopause. Is this a hormone situation? Absolutely. Is it progesterone? Absolutely. But it is not your classic picture here. So again, detox, something's not filtering, something's not metabolizing correctly. She might be on hormone replacement. She might be on birth control. There's something absolutely that's doing this to her. And it could be stress, but that's a lot to blame on stress, but it's possible. But we definitely need to be looking at what is going on with her testosterone and her progesterone. That is scary bad. So we would need to take a look at that. Then let's go take a look. Melatonin, not too bad. So we can't blame it on melatonin. Look at that. Green, green, green. Beautiful. So even with all of this estrogen imbalance going on, it looks like she's probably pretty chill in the brain, getting a good night's sleep, probably has some good cognitive function. She's okay. So we don't have to worry there. And then let's go here. Cortisol, it's not stress. So I'm guessing, based on what I'm seeing here, this is probably being synthetically induced with either bioidentical hormone replacement and or birth control, depending on her age. I don't know if we have her age on the thing. I take the personal details off. So we can't blame cortisol. It's not the stress in her. She might be trying to blame the stress in her life, but it's definitely not. And it's not her melatonin. But definitely, let's go back to that first page. Something's going wrong here. Definitely artificially induced testosterone and progesterone. So she's born here 1975. Not sure what she's doing, but we do need to get to the bottom of that there. Okay, good. That was a great one. So good. These are really good. There's helping. If you have any questions, anything you want to say as we continue moving forward, please put that in the chat. And let me go get another one. We'll start wrapping it up in just a minute. Let's take a look at briefly two more, see if there's anything good on these. I tried to get you really good ones that showed the dramatic differences here. So let's go here. Okay, good. All right, this one really high E2. This is one who has the traditional cliche estrogen dominance, problem. This one puts you at really high risk of the female cancer. So this is a scary score for this woman. So we need to, if this woman is not, we need to get her starting doing, the breast exams, the self-breast exams. I don't know when the last time is she had a pap smear here, but with this high score, this high estrogen starts putting you at high risk for estrogen cancer. So we'd be looking at that. Cortisol, let's see. Oh, melatonin here off the chart again in the middle of the night. So she's not sleeping. She's waking up. She's probably blaming the estrogen dominance. It could be in part due to the estrogen dominance, but you see we have a complicating factor that is also a melatonin problem. So high estrogen, high melatonin. Now we have two different root causes that need to be addressed. And stressed out in the beginning of the day. So cortisol, another woman probably waking up in the middle of a panic attack. It's probably what wakes her up is the panic attack itself. So just, kind of jumping out of her skin first thing in the morning. So you need to take a look at those estrogen levels. They're not getting properly detoxed at night while she's sleeping. The melatonin isn't cooperating, so she's not sleeping because her melatonin is jacking her up. And her cortisol is like, by the time she's done sleeping at night, her adrenal glands are like, that's it. We're done sleeping. That was miserable. We need that to stop. So it's like, we had enough sleeping. That was horrible. So we need to, that's not a good thing, obviously. So we need to go and find out what's making this poor woman not sleep. And then we have one last one here, and we'll start wrapping it up. Okay, good. Let me go grab this one for you. Excellent. Good. Oops, it disappeared. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay. So we have this one, a little bit of everything. So high E2, almost high yellow, not too good. A low E1, testosterone's low. This poor woman's all over the place. So this woman has several problems. So again, this is also why hormone replacement and even thyroid medication, they're only handling one level. And this woman has like 4 or 5 different problems. So if she's trying to handle this with progesterone creams or estrogen replacement or melatonin over the counter or synthetic B vitamins, or I don't know what this woman's doing, but she's never going to fix it because she's got 5 different problems going on. She's got one too high, one too low, the testosterone too low, progesterone's about to like tank out. Let's go see what else is going on. So she's got like 5 root causes. You're not going to fix that. Oh, good Lord, this poor woman. Look at this. Oh my gosh, I want to cry just looking at this chart. So look, oh my gosh, she's off the chart. So this is the melatonin. This poor woman is just like probably a crazy woman all day long. And I know she's feeling guilty. I know she's losing it. I know her family is wondering what's happening to her. And we need to get her melatonin under control. So what does she have? We had 4 or 5 problems with the first page. You look at this. We have 6 problems. We have 6 root causes just on one lab report. So again, when I'm talking about why this is going to take a year, look at this. Even if it just took us 2 months to balance out all 6 of them, that's a year right there. So just, I feel so sorry for this woman. So she's been a patient for a while because these are older reports. So I know she's doing better, but she's no longer this miserable. And then again, the cortisol, she's doing okay in the morning. She's actually below. And then I don't know, whatever she's doing, I'd be asking her, what are you doing between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. in there? Is that when you have your morning meetings with your boss? Is this when you're exercising on the treadmill? Is this when you're having your coffee and donut? I don't know, but she's doing something there in the middle of the, or like middle of the day. Maybe it's her lunch. I don't know, but somewhere between 11 and 1, she's doing something. I guarantee you to some degree, she's doing this to herself. Now, again, are we ever going to blame the patient? Of course not. What we're looking at here is I like to use the word responsibility. You have the health situations you do because of something you're either doing or not doing. And that's not invalidation. That's just the truth. It's either one or the other or a little bit of both. My job in working with you and creating the most personalized program and wellness journey for you and I to embark upon is so we have the opportunity in a calm, sane, beautiful, wonderful environment with a positive outlook and the correct mindset to go and kind of chip away at these things one at a time. It's not supposed to be mean or horrible or torturesome. There's no fighting. It's not you and I against each other. It's you and I against whatever these root causes are and getting at them and fixing them so you can look and feel as amazing as you totally deserve. Okay, great. So that's what we have on all of our things on estrogen and progesterone. I know we were all over the place. It was primarily about estrogen and progesterone, but I needed to go into these other areas so that you, by now, you actually know more than your medical doctor does about your hormones and estrogen and progesterone based on the additional pictures, charts, and information that I had given you. So let's take a look at what we have going on here. Let's see here. There's no price on your health. That is absolutely true. So we definitely, of course, there's money involved, but again, it's price, it's priorities, it's value. And I have helped this, Tina. Thank you for putting that in the chat. You are one of my superstar patients for sure. You have done everything I have asked to the letter. You've given me ample opportunity to get at the root cause, and we have had great successes. Some miracle stories, as I know from follow-up medical exams as well, that things that technically aren't supposed to go away weren't there when you went back the following time. So I encourage my patients to go back for their routine exams, whether they're working with a regular primary care physician, they're working with a gynecologist, an endocrinologist, a cancer specialist, whoever is keeping an eye on your statistics as far as your levels that are abnormal. I love when you work with me and we work our magic, and then you go back and have your follow-up labs done, your follow-up ultrasounds, MRIs, whatever the case may be. And everything that was there is either substantially smaller or gone. And they just stand there scratching their head and like, well, I don't know, I guess you're just a miracle. I'm like, no, you're not a miracle. You are a miracle. But it's a miracle because you made it, because you took the responsibility, you did the work, and you have become the amazing woman that you totally deserve to become because of your hard work and all of your effort. Well, that's all we have for our estrogen and progesterone class. I want to thank you so much for everything that we have done and you have given me during this master class. You now have the 10-part series. So any of the classes of anything I might have discussed tonight or I alluded to or were in previous modules, the entire masterclass is now on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube channel, just do a search for Dr. Lori Puskar, and it's the Woman's Masterclass. As soon as I wrap this up this evening, I'm going to be downloading that and then uploading it onto the YouTube, so you have the complete series to watch at your leisure. So ladies, thanks so much for joining me this evening. As always, a pleasure. This entire journey of doing this entire class has been such a wonderful experience. I'm so glad that you were a part of it, and I could give you the truth and the hope and the inspiration you need to continue on your pursuit of being the most amazing version of you. Thanks again and have a great night. Love you all. Bye. Love you.